Hello everybody, welcome to this week's bonus podcast where we are going to be talking about the Conversation Street Awards 2024, which launched today, and we are going to be running down all the nominations that you can vote for. So this is the 13th annual Conversation Street Awards. We've been doing this all the way back since 2012, and get voting everybody, but if you need a little bit of help to make your decision, then this is going to be the podcast for you. I am here with my lovely wife Gemma. Here she is. Hello, Gemma.
Hello.
Hello. We're just so excited. This is the awards. This is glamour. This is glitz. We're just a little bit
but
cold.
We're not doing the announcements. This is just like, doesn't know who won.
It doesn't matter. It's still very exciting and glamorous. We're so glamorous. We're both just sat on the sofa covered in duvets and blankets because we're freezing cold. But yeah, we've been. It's always fun doing this. It's a difficult decision coming up with our final long list because we know that people have been waiting to see whether their favourites are going to get through. Now you can find out. Now, I don't know what the link is that you can go to go and vote, but we're going to plaster it over social media as much as possible. It'll be in the description of this episode. It'll be on our Twitter. It'll be on our Instagram. Might even get out Threads and post it on there.
Blue Sky.
Maybe put it on Blue Sky as well. It doesn't matter, but your job, everybody listening, is to follow that link, vote for your favourites, and share the link as well. Make sure that as many people as possible can get a chance to vote for their favourites this year. We have not done anything special or different or new for this week's for this year's awards. Last year was the first Getaway Award, which we've kept on, which is our award for best location shoot in an attempt to try and encourage Coronation Street to get out into the real world more. We've still got that this year. How did you find the nomination picking process? Difficult year this year or not too bad?
Some categories difficult, some not. As usual.
As
right,
usual.
So what is the Conversation Street Awards? What? This is a unique opportunity for listeners and Coronation Street watchers to be able to do your own awards, which is publicly voted, and also Michael and I vote too. So we get a third between us.
We get a third of the votes, yeah.
And you guys get a 2/3 of the vote. You can vote online, and you can also select. You don't have to vote for every category. So if you're not bothered about one of them, we'd rather you just skipped it instead of just clicking a random one so that we know exactly what everybody thinks.
That's right. Voting will be open until around about Christmas Day. I can't, so maybe Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, roughly around then I usually close it. And like Gemma said, we do have a larger chunk of the vote, but we never have a look at what everyone else has voted for until
cheat,
we voted.
And we don't tell each other what we're voting for either.
No, very top secret. It's a serious business.
It's not a Coronation Street mafia here. And the other thing that makes this different from all the others is that we're not doing Best Actor, we're not doing Best Actress, we don't do that. We ask you about the characters because I got a sneaking suspicion that quite a lot of the time when people are voting for the Best Actor or the Best Actress or the Best Performer, they're really just voting for their favourite character. But this is this is very in-universe sort of character story driven.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always something fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people vote because I haven't decided how I'm going to vote for some of these yet.
Me either. Some of them obvious, some of them not.
Yes.
But yeah, I know we always make fun of how many awards there are, but they all are a bit different, aren't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And this is just for Corrie people to pick what you like. I mean, although if you do watch other soaps too, feel free to join.
And we don't want any of this negativity, people coming in and saying I'm not voting for anything because Corrie's been rubbish this year. This isn't the place for this. Right, 2024 has not been a vintage year for Coronation Street, we all know, but putting that to one side, there was still some fantastic stuff.
Vote for what makes you happy and makes you smile and you enjoyed, and then we'll tally up the votes and then we'll have a nice celebration of all the things that were good when we've got the results.
Exactly. Right, let's kick off with our first award, which is the A-Up Award for Best Newcomer. This is a little bit tricky this year, actually, because there haven't been a whole load of big new names making their debut in Coronation Street in 2024. In fact, one of our nominees here actually first showed up on the cobbles at the tail end of 2023.
Well, let's just quickly say another point here is that we've got 5 nominees for each category. Mm-hmm. And it runs from the cut-off point of our previous awards. So because we do it in the middle of December anything that happens at Christmas doesn't really count, or after Christmas. Or...
And that's sometimes when some really big drama happens.
And it's really frustrating too, because especially sometimes on Christmas Day we're like, there's a really good Aki thump.
Yeah, sometimes it does, we try and sneak it into the next year, but by then people have forgotten about it a little bit. I think we're one of the later awards compared to, quite a lot of the other ones for 2024 have happened.
It's much easier to remember what happened in a year if you do it at the end of the year though.
Yeah, exactly. And we will, of course, be doing a proper rundown of 2024, our thoughts and reflections on it at some point.
Because the way the way that the story beats and everything works, it always does feel like the year ends climactically or things come to a conclusion, it kind of makes it weird that most of the other awards just happen randomly whenever they feel like it during the year. But anyway, newcomers, you would not have forgotten the first one I'm going to mention here, even though he appeared at the end of the year before. Yeah. That's Bobby Crawford. We've also got Kit Green, Betsy Swain, Rowan Cunliffe, and Logan Radcliffe.
Yeah. Like you said, Bobby made his debut. I think it was 27th, 28th of December last year. It was literally Peter was barely out the door when another member of Carla's family came rocking up on the street. It's been funny because I feel that when Jack Carroll came into the show playing Bobby, there was quite a lot of commotion and publicity on Coronation Street's part, saying, hey, look, we've got this new character. But actually, he's definitely been a bit on the down low this year, hasn't he?
He's probably been one of the lowest key new characters that's supposed to be a major regular.
Yeah, I think his high points were around the missing Lauren story. Yeah. It was him and Max kind of teaming up to try and discover what had happened to her.
He was a major part of one of the most important stories of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be difficult. We're trying not to put our opinions too much in this discussion because we don't want to sway the vote too much, but sometimes it might be hard for it to be avoided. Next up, like you said, Kit Green, played by Jacob Roberts. He's been a really interesting character and he's been total Marmite with the fans, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. But just like Bobby, he's got a link to an established family on the street because he is the half-sibling of Gemma and Paul. So he was involved in that storyline, but also, with Swain and investigating Joel. Speaking of Swain, we got a Betsy.
Yes, Betsy, lovely.
Yeah, a bit of a scamp.
She was a character who was teased long before she made her debut, wasn't she?
We got the scoop on her, didn't we?
Well, yeah, quite. When we interviewed Vicky Myers earlier this year, she did say she told us what Betsy's name would be months before she appeared on the show. Now, I did want to use this opportunity to clarify we haven't got Swain in our A-Up award and I know some people would, some people wouldn't. I think she's just won an award for Best Newcomer, maybe the iTalk Telly Awards. But I think the fact that she's been in the show for 3.5 years for us, and there's enough other nominations to go here. Fair enough.
You can't quibble with somebody not including a character who's been in the show for 3.5 years. I know that she's debuted as a regular, but
and very popular.
Been in the show, and you'll have a category.
Exactly. She appears later on. So yeah, we had Kit, who was kind of shades of is he good, is he bad, a little bit sneaky. Same with Betsy, I suppose. She's been
quite a lot of these.
Sometimes on the dark, some bit of light.
This is a rogues gallery because we've also got Rowan Cunliffe, who is a bit of an evil dude, isn't he? But he's got great hair.
He has. I mean, he has now definitely left the show, but I think it was, just because he's a side character. He's never been a regular, but I think he's definitely been a major part of this year and definitely one of the show's major villains of 2024. Oodles of Charm. I've talked a lot on the main podcast about how much I have enjoyed that story, and I think that Rowan's a really fun kind of villain. So even though I really doubt that we're going to see him on the street again. You can't deny he's been quite a major factor in that
one of the biggest stories.
Stories of the year. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of villains, our final nominee is Logan Radcliffe.
We've got Cunliffe and Radcliffe. Don't get those mixed up.
No, you don't want to. Now, this is one of the Warner Brothers. He's been in it a bit longer than his brother.
Yeah, we were saying, can we have Logan and Matty as combined nominees? We've never had that before.
We did consider it, but Michael said no.
I said no. I said that goes against the rules of the Conversation Street Awards.
Yeah, so he is a naughty schemer And he also bashed Carla over the head, so...
He did, yeah, and he raided Sarah Lou's flat, didn't he? Do you remember when...
I thought you'd say he did a panty raid on the underworld.
No,
he kind of did, really.
Well, he might have had a quick glimpse at some knickers on the lines when he was
it.
looking around there. So I think we've still yet to see the true extent of what Logan and indeed Matty are going to be bringing to the street. But I think that the expansion of the Radcliffe family, Mason's family, has got potential, I think.
Yeah, all of these, it's funny because all of these characters, apart from Rowan, has a relative already in the show. He's a regular character.
Yeah, that's really true, actually. Yeah, I mean, the introduction of Kit was really quite interesting, wasn't it? With Bernie remembering, that there was this kid in the past and then she was looking up Christopher Green. Yeah, and then coming into the show, I was like, oh, what's going to happen now? And although he's kind of been dibbling in and out of the Paul story stuff, but maybe I was thinking dibble because he's a police officer, which has been a main focus of 2024. I mean, there has been, if you're going to say one thing about 2024 on Corrie, is there's been a lot of police in it, and for that you need a lot of police officers and kits added to that for sure. So, who's your favourite new character? That's our first category of the year. Time to move on to our next one, which is the Top Lad Award, where we take a look at the best male character of 2024. This is always really difficult. The Top Lad and the Top Lass, really tricky to whittle down so many great actors and characters into a category of 5. But this year we've decided to go for Paul Foreman, Roy Cropper, Nick Tilsley, Billy Mayhew, and David Platt. Now, it feels like David Platt, I haven't looked at the previous year's nominations, but I feel like it's been a couple of years since David's really been a bit of a contender here, isn't it?
I think we nominate him quite often, but it feels as though he's probably justified this year because he's had a very big... he's coming into a big story, it feels like, but... Yeah,
there hasn't been as much of him up until recently. He's been there in the background. Obviously, Max has been a lot more important, which meant that David had a bit of a secondary role. But yeah, this new story with him and Shona going on is...
Max in Top Lad then?
Well, I know, it's a difficult
This is
one.
really... This
it's
actually...
so tough.
Normally, it's the Top Lass that's the most difficult to whittle down because genuinely, and this is why I'm always a bit hesitant and, not hesitant, but vocally against not separating out the sexes for awards because the amount of stuff and storylines are completely different for men and women in soaps because they're so focused on domestic life and families, and women and men still, no matter what you want to say, have very distinct and different roles in those traditional family units, which is what Coronation Street is about. So
I thought it was all about crime and hospital visits.
Oh yeah, that's right. But the thing is about it, so the men, it's usually quite easy to think, well, who's been the top 5 men? Because there usually aren't that many, are there? There's usually very obviously 5 that have been focused on and then the rest of kind of smaller roles. But this year, I definitely think that there have been a lot more storylines for the men. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, Joel's obviously... we haven't got Joel as a nominee here, and in previous years... we absolutely. I mean, Pat Phelan was a nominee, and I think possibly even a winner of Top Lad during his time, and Stephen. But Joel missed out here.
It's a shame.
It is, but we have plenty of other great choices.
But
I never need an excuse to nominate David Platt for anything. I think he's fantastic. He's definitely one of the show's biggest assets. So I'm really chuffed that the Platts are getting their big story at the end of this year, which I assume is going to roll in, and there'll be a centre stage in 2025 as well. But Jack P. Shepherd is one of the biggest assets that the show has at the moment, so absolutely deserves to be a nominee here, alongside his telly brother Nick Tilsley, who's been he's been centre stage, especially a lot through the middle of the year this year, in amongst all the Institute and Affair storylines. Yeah,
that's right.
I think it probably goes without saying that he should get a nomination this year.
Yeah, he's been in the show a lot. I mean, all of these characters, I think, we haven't looked at the most frequented characters. I don't know what that's called because you're not allowed to look at that. The top appearances of the year, but if
kind of gone with our gut.
The top, in the top 10, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been through an awful lot of trauma. He started the year going out with Leanne, almost ready to marry her. By the end of it, he's shacked up with her sister secretly. Well, he thinks secretly. actually Leanne knows. But yeah, he's taken up a lot of screen time this year, and Ben Price is a sterling actor, and I think that it was only right to award him a nomination this year. Do you want to speak to one of the others that made our list?
We've got Billy and Paul, don't we? And the MND storyline has been such a great, interesting story that I think they have done. It's one of the most well done stories of the year, of recent years, in fact. And you've got Paul, who was, Peter Ash's depiction of him as he slowly succumbs to MND and loses the ability to do so many things.
Well, I think that, some people, even though this isn't an actor category, will be looking at the performance here. And although all five of these are absolutely superb and on point, you can't deny that Peter Ash's performance and portrayal of Paul as he goes from, at the beginning of the year, still ill, but, he could move about somewhat, he could speak, everything, and then just to losing all of that over summer before finally succumbing to MND in September, I think it was, has been an absolute masterclass, and he's deserved all those other awards that have got coming to him. But is he the best character of the year? That's down to you to decide.
And Billy also, he's worked really hard to support Paul, been there for him all the way through, had to deal with the conflict that he had with his beliefs and Bernie, and navigate that really difficult process of them both grieving and not agreeing on who had the final say, and the religious thing, and also having that really hard story episode where they were going to end Paul's life, and that was just really hard to watch, because both those characters were so, I think, really well written and performed, because they both wanted different things, and that's what the conflict is at the heart of a soap, is always somebody wants something different from somebody else. And
I would say that this story has been the kind of the renaissance of Billy, really. I always really enjoyed him as a character. Dan Brocklebank has just celebrated 10 years playing Billy on screen, and I thought it was fab when he came into it. But there was definitely a period, 2-3 years ago, when my love of all things Billy, definitely went off the boil. But this has brought it right back. I've got an awful lot of time for him. It has been a bit of a shame how he's been arguing with Bernie a little bit, but it cannot be denied that Dan Brocklebank and Billy have been quite a key factor of this year's Coronation Street.
But the love there between Paul and Billy has been one of the most important parts of the MND storyline, and having a gay couple at the centre of a story about losing the one you love, I think, is a really important
100%
story. So, and these two characters were fantastic in it. But we've also got Roy Cropper.
I love how a character, as in it, as classic as he's been in the show for so long, he's not one of these kind of young bucks. He's in his 70s now, isn't he? But that hasn't stopped him from making his way very deservedly to our nominations list this year. Sometimes characters can get to a certain age and they're quietly retired from the show, but not so with Roy this year. He has still been just as important in 2024 as he's ever been, and there was always the worry that post Hayley, what are they going to do with him? And not everybody has been in agreement with what they did with him this year, locking him up. The Free Roy Cropper campaign wasn't everybody's favourite story, but he's still been very much front and centre during that, and in the month since, actually. The relationship with Evelyn, it's still never turned into anything romantic. I don't think it's going to. It's still been lovely to watch, and with Lauren also being a key player in 2024's Coronation Street, Roy being her ardent supporter, he's never too far behind. David Nielsen, absolute gem of an actor, massive asset to Coronation Street, 100% deserves this nomination. I think this is going to be a really, really tough category actually to vote for. I don't know who I'm going to go for there, so good luck everybody listening when you're picking that. Do you want to move on to the lady version of this award, the Top Lass Award, Gemma?
Top Lass, that's right. We give it to the best lady on the street, and there have been some great crackers of characters, and again, some people that have had to be left off because I think they've done a good job with spreading the drama around. But you cannot deny that the person who's had probably the most hectic year might have been Dee Dee Bailey.
I think she's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, listener, I think she's had the most appearances of anybody ever during a year of Coronation Street. This girl has not stopped, has she?
She's lawyering, she's engager in, she's getting unengager in.
She's getting up the duff, isn't she? Yeah, 2024 has been the year of Dee Dee Bailey. She's been on the show for a couple of years now, and there was a bit of a warm-up to her, but they throw her into the deep end this year.
The DD deep end.
The DD deep end, exactly. With the whole Joel storyline, which is, it's still running. What with the Deerings making their reappearance on the street last week with Baby Snatching, yeah. But Shanique Sterling-Brown has taken it all in her stride, and I think very, very deserving of a place on the list here. We also got Lauren Bolton, Carla Connor, Leanne Battersby, and Bernie Winter. So any of those you'd particularly like to speak about first?
Well, Lauren
second?
Clearly has been involved in the biggest story of the year, which is everything to do with Joel, because at the beginning of the year everyone wondered who killed Lauren, and at the end of the year everyone wondered who killed Joel, and she was involved in both of them because she wasn't dead and she did kill Joel.
Well, she was off the screen for about 3 or 4 months, wasn't she?
Nobody can stop talking about her. She was everything. If you're going to vote purely on influence, I don't know how you'd pick between Dee Dee and Lauren, because they really have been the sort of force behind a lot of the things that have happened on the show, whether or not they were actually steering them or heavily involved. Like you say, Lauren wasn't that. She was in hiding for a while.
Yeah, I think if she hadn't, if the story had gone differently, she would certainly be rivaling Dee Dee in terms of how frequently they've appeared on screen this year. Love her or hate her, Lauren is 100% a key part of 2024 and couldn't not be on our list here.
And it's up to you, as you're selecting your picks here, your winners, you've got to decide to yourself, am I voting because I like this character the most, or do I think this character, like we said, has influenced the events? This is an important character, because a lot of the time, some of these characters, they might not be like the sort of person you want to have a pint with down the pub, but they are still an important part of the show.
Yeah. Leanne Battersby, I'm a big Battersby fan. We love, we never hide how much.
Which Battersby, didn't we?
We love Toya, exactly. It was either going to be Toya or Leanne. It could have been both, to be honest, but we plumped for Leanne just so that we could give some other stories a chance as well, as the main player of the Institute story, which I've really, really enjoyed. I know, it's been funny reading comments about Leanne online, and it really has been a pick a side, isn't it? Are you for or against Leanne? Do you sympathise with her, what she's been through and being ensnared into the cult? Or are you on the side that said, well, she was stupid walking into something that was clearly mega dodgy? She deserves to have Nick walk out on her. Think what you like. I've certainly been a Leanne sympathiser this year, and I'm also absolutely loving the petty revenge she's currently in the middle of taking out on her sister and former fiance that's maybe going to be blowing up in the next couple of weeks. But Jane Danson, as she's been on and off the show for nearly 30 years now, and it's really wonderful to see that they've still got plenty of ideas and things to do with her. She's not missed a beat, honestly, this year. She's been absolutely superb. Speaking of characters where we had to pick one over the other, we've plumped for Carla rather than Lisa this year in the top last category, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right. Carla has had a lot to do recently with romancing and being bopped on the head as well. So she's always a fan favourite. As the factory boss, she gets a lot of screen time anyway, doesn't she?
Yeah, there was a risk that after Peter left at the end of last year that they might kind of just put Carla to bed for a little bit and give her a bit of a breathing space. But no, bringing in Bobby, giving her somebody new to play off. There's been the scenes with Ryan. Simon was obviously a big part of the first half of the year before his exit as well. She's had a lot to contend with.
She was a big part of the Roy Cropper is innocent story as as well, trying to defend him. Ended up dooring a kid
Oh yeah.
because she got annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, even like 2023, not just the Peter stuff, but obviously the whole Stephen Reed drama. Alison King has been, well, Alison Sinclair is always a very busy lady, but Alison King has also been a very, very busy lady for quite a while now. She's another real asset to Coronation Street, and obviously with this romance blossoming between her and Lisa, which I think came as quite a surprise to a lot of people this year. There's still plenty more in the tank for her to take her into 2025 and beyond. Finally, we had Bernie. This was a bit of a rogue sort of choice, wasn't it? With the men, you were saying we were struggling to sort of whittle it down. I think with the women, we definitely agreed to go for Dee Dee, Lauren, Carla and Leanne, and then it was like, well, who should we pick as our fifth one? Do you want to say a little bit about why we ended up plumping for Bernie as our fifth character? And I'm not saying that she's the least important, so therefore don't vote for her. I think some people will hopefully be filled that she's got a recognition here, but why Bernie?
She's had a great... I love her and Dev, the ups and the downs they've had there, but she's also had that big story about her secret child, Kit, and hiding that, deciding whether to reveal it, and, seeking him out secretly and coping with the loss of her son, and watching him, waste away in front of her and not being able to do anything about it. And
I think
trying to support her daughter at the same time.
Yeah, I think her role in the MND storyline really shouldn't be and can't be downplayed. She's a character who has, again, been a little bit Marmite over the years and has certainly not always the sort of character that always does the right thing. What is the right thing to do when you're faced with the situation that she's been in this year with a son who was only diagnosed with 6 months left to live? But she really has been a pillar of strength in the Foreman, Winter, Brown, Mayhew kind of clan this year. Even right down to when Paul was there on his deathbed and she had to make the decision to, do I tell Billy or let it go? I mean, I certainly didn't enjoy some of the stuff she did after Paul's death and the bickering between the two of them. But she's absolutely been a key player to this year, and she's been a character who's really gone up in my estimation over the course of this story, which is hopefully what's going to happen with the big stories.
I also loved her and Dev together. And I also think that it's interesting that a lot of people will have picked a side between who they thought was right with Bernie and Billy, because they both had different opinions, and it was really fascinating. Because sometimes when you're watching and you're thinking, clearly so and so's in the wrong, and they're just being silly, but actually a lot of people come down on the other side. So I think that just goes to show that it's a well conceptualized storyline, and the characters are very true to themselves. And this is one thing that I'm liking, is that all these characters that we've nominated for Top Lass and Top Lad, they felt very authentically them. There hasn't been anybody who I feel as though has changed their personality to fit a storyline.
No.
Which is what we worry sometimes happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bernie is really growing into the role of a classic Corrie matriarch
I really
kind
think
of
she
character.
is. I don't think she gets enough credit. So if you want to give her some credit for it, give her a vote.
Yeah, even the Carla story, which has obviously taken a very unexpected twist this year, it still, as watching it, feels like Carla doesn't seem to be acting out of character at all the way that she's going. So yeah, another really tough decision to make here with your Top Lass. Let's do the Getaway Award, which was the 2023 debut award, where we picked our best location shoots. One of the ones that we've got in here, I'm sure there's going to be some quibbles over whether it counts or not as a location
we had our own
shoot.
Quibbles.
We did have our own internal quibbles here, but our 5 nominations are number 1, Cassie's puppy rescue mission, right back at the start of the year when the puppy farming house was raided by Cassie. She goes into the house, finds all the cages of puppies, clonks the guy over the head to try and escape. I think just for the R's.
Evelyn called her puppy woman.
I don't remember.
When it was,
there was
Bobby
something
came
funny,
up with silly
Yeah,
Like, she's a superhero, and that was a bit cringe. But
that was a little bit cringe.
The location was great.
And there were lots of lovely, cute little puppies there. They didn't need to do this. So often in Coronation Street, they'll talk about things that have happened off screen, and especially if they have somewhat outrageous things that have happened, and not show them. And they could have 100% done that with this story and not shown any of it at all, but they did, and I'm pleased that they did. So that's why we've got that as our first nomination here. Next up, we've got Roy's trial. Of course, they were back to Bolton Town Hall again to film the scenes where he was sent down earlier this year. I mean, I think it kind of is a bog standard sort of trial scene, really, but Roy was there involved. Bit of an unexpected result, having him sent down for something that we knew that he was innocent of.
It was not because we got the t-shirt. It was nice to see them do a big court scene, not just the room that they use over and over again.
Yeah, like with Rowan's trial just recently, they kind of use that for the small scenes, don't they? That's been around for sort of 4 or 5 years or so in Coronation Street. But when you know that you're onto something big when they head over to Bolton for the location shoot, so absolutely deserving of a spot there. Next up in the still in the Joel story, we've got Swain and Kit discovering his car. So this was the scene that was filmed in Martham Viaduct. When we just seen in the previous episode Joel leaving that voicemail message for Dee Dee, and we're thinking, what's going on there? Next episode, they're driving out in the country. There were some lovely drone shots over the top of the car of this magnificent viaduct, which we've since visited. They find the car. I mean, you can include however much you want in this one. Is it also going to include Dee Dee finding the other car in the field? Hey, if you want it to be. But all that was a really great, I think it was a Monday episode, a really interesting start to the week, and it's lovely to get out and see some real picturesque countryside scenes in something that could have just happened, could it have happened at the precinct? Maybe. And have him pushed off the top of the precinct, I don't know, but I really appreciated that they used this little shot here. Next up, do you want to do one?
Paul's space launch.
This is the quibbly one.
So this was a location shoot. But was it? So this was the video that was played for Bernie and Billy, who did not like it, in the Rovers. But we got to see the video. We weren't just watching it off the screen. We were watching it on, as viewers, and we got to see. I don't know whether it was a company that does space launches.
I think it must be,
or just the Coronation Street crew go in a field with drones, but we got to see it get launched in a field and then fly up into space until we could see the curvature of the earth. Just for all those flat earthers who are Coronation Street fans, just to put them off. And then see the ashes get released with a lovely picture of Paul and space in the background.
It could have been a little bit
I did not think we were going to get to see this, which is why I really wanted this to be in our nominees.
Yeah.
They could have just said, oh yeah, we watched that.
They showed it flying through the clouds. We got some lovely wide shots of the ground area of wherever it was that they did the launch. Yes, we didn't have characters going out on location. Yeah, it might have been, like you said, nobody from Coronation Street actually being involved in it, but it's still very, very rare, sadly, that we get to see outside the confines of the Media City set. So I think for that, and just because it's kind of uniqueness, we thought, let's squeeze it in there as a nomination.
Paul is the first Coronation Street character to go to space officially, so I think that's worth nomination, if not the award.
Yeah, and finally, we've got in the scene with Toyah and Leanne when they go to the place where Rose was buried, and they put a little teddy bear down there, which is a really, really sweet moment. I loved that. They'd filmed a few scenes there in, I can't remember, Norcroft Park, I think it was called, in the Coronation Street universe. Why they didn't use the Red Wreck, I'm not completely sure. I didn't particularly love the scene where Toyah's attacking a car with a spade, but when they go back there, the two of them, and they've got the little yellow rose bush there, they're holding each other's hands, and it felt like, oh, these sisters, nothing could come between them. Little did we know back in May, June kind of time, whenever this was, exactly what was going to be in store for them over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So, lovely sisterly bonding moment there. I think that I'm really happy that that's in there. We've got, again, some really strong contenders there. I'm not saying that we've had enough location shoots this year. It was still thin on the ground. There are a few others that we could have picked, but not loads. Let's get out more Coronation Street. Come on, spend that cash on getting outside. So we've got some more nominations next year. Next up, Gemma, what have we got?
Wrongin award for the best villain. We do love a villain on this show, and we know that you do. Some of you do anyway. Some of you like the villains, and we had plenty this year.
Yeah, some more important than others,
and some more villainous than others. Some of these are just a bit
a few little minor irritants
disagreeable
in here,
rather than a villain. But hey, we'll add them in anyway. So our 5 nominees. Just quickly go through them. Joel, Rowan, Logan, Kit, and Stefan Brent.
Yes. Stefan, you're lucky to get in here. I was very surprised that we got a return from Stefan this year. There are quite a lot of returns overall. I think when we do the review of the year, that's going to be quite a talking point, how many characters from the past they brought back. And he was definitely a minor irritant over the summer months during the Abby revenge porn story, and having him there still as... Slimy, that's a good word, and swaggery as ever. Definitely when he got punched in the face by Kevin in the office, there was a bit of a cheer in this household.
We don't like posh people, rich people on the show, do we?
Magazine editors,
hate
them. But, there's no denying that he's going to be facing some very, very stiff competition from Joel. I mean, we're certainly not wanting to push you in any particular direction, but it's clear that Joel was the major villain of 2024, but he was only a villain from, May onwards, wasn't he? Up until that point, he was just Dee Dee's bland, boring boyfriend.
Oh, bread sauce.
Yeah, that was like... It was fairly like what's he been brought into the show? Yes, there was certainly some suspicion after Lauren's disappearance that he might have been the one behind it, but it was that moment at the end of Britain's Got Talent week when we get the flashback to see him clonking Lauren over the head with the chair leg. From that point onwards, something switched in him, and he was a deliciously devious bad guy for the next couple of years until his untimely demise.
Very shocking twist, I think, and a villain too that has dominated the screens. And perhaps if you're the kind of person who doesn't like gritty, dark stories, you would have a protest vote against Joel.
Well, yeah.
So this is why we've got other options, because we've also got Rowan, who was definitely a bit more of a campy villain, wasn't he?
Yes,
he was.
I mean, both were campy
slimy
in their own way. I think.
I don't think there has. I think we've just had loads of camp this year, which has been really great, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I would put Logan quite in that category yet, but he still had not loads to do, has he? Like you said earlier, Logan was there clonking Carla over the head. He's been a little bit looming over Mason and saying, "Oi, don't you dob us in." But he's. I think that Logan has got the potential to be quite a nasty piece of work, and they haven't played too far into the moustache twirling, cackling villain like they have done with some of the other ones.
He's a refreshingly simple-minded villain. A lot of these other ones are quite sophisticated, and they've, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Especially quite a few of these people wouldn't even think of themselves as villains, whereas I think Logan knows exactly who he is and what he wants out of life. And a bog standard ruffian, I think, very, very good.
Well, with Rowan, there was discussion of is he just doing what he's doing because he believes in the Institute?
Is he like Leanne and he truly thinks that this is right and he'll do anything, to promote something he thinks can help people? And
has helped him in the past. We found out partway through the year that he's also Luke Salter, wasn't he? Yeah. And then he's reformed under the influence of the Institute.
Weirdly, I thought he was also a vampire hunter in a previous life, but I think I've got him confused.
I think you mixed him up with the other thing that he was doing. Yeah. He's been a lot of fun, and getting in there with his secret photos of Toya and Nick, blackmailing left, right, and centre. He was a really good one for evil, sneery grins to the camera when nobody else was looking.
Yeah, if Stefan's slimy, then Rowan's smirky.
Yes, exactly. I've really enjoyed Emrys Cooper's portrayal of Rowan. He's been an awful lot of fun.
Yeah.
And in a story that on paper could have been a little bit odd, and I know
Some
that some
people
people
will
will
still
still
say
say
that
it
it
was odd. I think that, you know, he as the figurehead for this storyline has helped me enjoy it a heck of a lot more. And then finally, like you said, we've got Kit as our 5th nomination on here.
Now I know there's a certain fan base that certainly really, really hates Kit because he has got it out for our lovely Lisa Swain, doesn't he?
Yes.
He's such a hard one to pin down because he is a villain, but he's a self-interested villain. Like, if everything was going his way, he wouldn't bother to do anything wrong, would he? But when things don't work out, he's perfectly happy to bend the rules. He's a cheater. He's a liar.
He is.
He's a sneaky. He's a bad cop.
He's still a character that feels a little underdeveloped in that we don't really know what makes him tick. Even going back as far as when he put that scrunchie in, or the hair from the scrunchie, I can't remember exactly what he did, in the back of Nathan's van to frame him. That was really the first inkling that we got that he was a bent copper. And I'm still kind of, why did he do that? You know, does he just is he an agent of chaos? You know, was he just doing it to defend Bethany? Who knows?
He's like the Loki of Coronation Street. He also was feuding with Bernie, and he was very cruel to her.
He was horrible to Bernie.
I know that she did a terrible thing, and it's easy for us to forgive her because we find her likeable and charismatic and fun, and we know her more than we know Kit. But if you see it from his perspective, I guess he really did want revenge because she stood him up all those years ago, abandoned him originally.
Yeah.
And
he was turning Paul and Gemma against her as well, which is a pretty nasty thing to do when Paul's only got so long left to live.
And he's also perfectly happy to, shag around and
a proper dirty
women.
dog, isn't he? He doesn't care about the feelings of Daisy or Shona. He just wants to get his end away.
And he's also very tall.
Very tall.
Might influence you, depending on how tall you are.
If anyone's going to be looming over anybody in a sinister way in Coronation Street at the moment, it's Kit. So, a little bit of a enigma there. Could be a bit of an off-the-wall pick for you.
He's so interesting to me because he could end up, a bit like Gary. Gary came in as a villain, then he got reformed, then he went boring, then he became a villain again, and now he's good, supposedly. I think Kit, honestly, if he stays in the show, could end up being one of these characters who sometimes is in the villain category and sometimes is not. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on from the Wrong On Award, we have got the Our Kid Award, and this is for Coronation Street's Best Young Character of the Year. And what we usually try and do for this, by the way, if you're not sure you'd forgotten, is pick actors who are under 18 at the time of nomination. So we've got some characters like Betsy and Lauren, who the characters themselves are younger than 18, but we try and go for ones where the actors are more on the young side. And actually this year's nominees are exactly the same as last year's. So we've got Hope, Sam, Dylan, Liam and Joseph, none of which have dominated the screen this year for sure, although Liam at the beginning of the year probably was the closest that we got to that, as the bullying storyline that started towards the tail end of last year reached its conclusion.
Yes, we've got Dylan and Liam, who are both in the bullying storyline, and Dylan was a difficult character because he was an instigator but also a victim. He was sort of ganging up with Mason against Liam, who was having an awful time and, really tragically treated, and it's very sad to watch him with his mum and Gary. So I think Liam's a great character from that perspective, and this was a new opportunity for during the development of this storyline for them to show his acting chops.
Absolutely. I mean, Charlie Renshaw, who's played Liam, has been on the show for I think he was how old was he? 3, 4 maybe when he first came into the show. I can't remember, but he's been in this role a long time.
Yeah.
And although there's been a few stories here and there, like I always remember the one where he was doing the rapping with Brian at school as a 3 King or something.
Oh yeah.
This was really the character's debut kind of big story, and he's been absolutely superb. And I know that online there's been an awful lot of love for Charlie, especially on TikTok. So I've heard.
Don't go on there.
Don't go on there. It's a scary place for us oldies. But definitely he's in with a strong chance, I think.
It's always fascinating this category because we know that there are several kind of danger points for actors who are playing a young character about when they're going to get recast. When when you're a baby to toddler, that's a danger time. Toddler to being about 10, that's another danger time. And then when you become a young teen, I think every so often you can see them getting a bit of an audition story where they work out, is this character got stickability? Is this actor gonna work long term, or can we take them from childhood to adulthood? And I think that everyone in this category, I think, is showing.
We are not losing any of these.
I don't think so, unless they want to leave. So, like
Liam
you said, Charlie,
Liam
brilliant.
McShane has been playing Dylan ever since he was little. Is a big gap.
Is a big, he's gone on to do other things and come back to Corrie.
Yeah, but he's a really solid choice. He's a great actor, and especially at the beginning of the year, really really key player.
Yeah, it's a difficult character because he was a perpetrator more than a victim.
But I've really enjoyed some of the scenes that he's had with Sean as well. They've moved into their own flat now. Sean, Anthony Cotton, has been superb in the scenes, particularly when he found out that Dylan was writing those homophobic texts and messages. I can't remember what he was doing.
Just being rude.
Yeah, he really was. Rude. But Dylan's been fab this year.
We've got to consider the skill that it takes to depict a character like that. There's quite a lot of morally grey characters on the show, and I think that it can be quite difficult to play that, and I think he's done a really really great job.
Sure.
Then you've got somebody like Joseph, who has never done anything wrong apart from have adorable face and be the victim of having to live with 4 really annoying brothers and sisters and no money.
And Lyme disease, Gemma.
Lyme disease.
That was his biggest woe in 2024. So. And
does he pizza and French frying his way through the Swiss Alps or wherever he went skiing?
Yeah, he had that big-ish story with the Lyme disease earlier this year, and then obviously they threw him into a couple of scenes on the pool story as well. And I think that one thing that Joseph has got going for him, much in the same way as Chesney did when he was that age, is that he can be very, very cute and a bit tragic.
Yes.
And there were some really, really lovely moments between him and Paul, which might be plucking on your heartstrings enough to get you to cast your vote his way. And then finally with Hope and Sam.
Fan favourites.
Real fan favourites.
These are cult favourites with the Corrie crowd, because Hope is, she could be a villain. I don't think we've ever put her in that category,
training.
But she really, one day, I hope that she does graduate to the villain category.
Yes.
She's already what did Ruby call her? A dirty vapour.
Oh yeah, she's been having a vaping story on and off this year, hasn't she? I think she's maybe over that now.
She's fine
I don't know,
now.
after
Apparently
setting
it's not that addictive after
the
all.
bureau on fire.
Yeah.
But we also had the story with Alina coming back, of course. Now, as much as I would
blip.
love to have nominated Doran in the Our Kids category, I just don't feel that he's quite done enough yet to earn a place here, as cute as he is.
I mean,
think
honestly,
it would be pretty one-sided,
I
to be
think
honest.
he would have won.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have been fair, because just saying some words, it was adorable, but it's not about being stinking adorable. It's not the most adorable kid.
Yes. But Hope has had some great scenes with him this year. And Sam, obviously, we absolutely love this character. He's been in the show for a good few years now, starting to grow up. I think it's maybe a little on the... we haven't seen as much of him as I'd have liked this year, but he's been there in the background for the Battersby love triangle drama.
Being dragged into his father's sordid affair.
Exactly.
Being forced to lie.
Little bit in the Roy story as well. He's just an absolutely solid pick. We've got some great contenders here. If
anyone wants any ideas for some scenes in Coronation Street, I know that sometimes it can be hard to fill the time. I think they drag out some things sometimes because they don't have any ideas. But if you want an idea from me, here you go. Why doesn't Evelyn teach Sam how to play backgammon?
Oh yeah, he'd love it, wouldn't he?
I don't know, would he?
I reckon
could there be some comedy in him dismissing the sport of kings or whatever? The game
Omar
of kings.
Sharif's
Omar Sharif's favourite pastime. I'm pretty sure when I was little, when we had a PC, like one of the, when I was 9 in 1990, I'm pretty sure we had an Omar Sharif backgammon game.
I have never played backgammon.
I don't even know how to do it.
I want to.
I don't even know. I look at it and it's just a bunch of arrows. Anyway, we're not talking about that. It's not the best board game that's been on Coronation Street, because I don't think I'd give it to backgammon. But if you thought that was funny, which it wasn't.
Nice
you
segue.
might want to be an aficionado of one of our characters here in the Right Laugh Funniest Character Awards, because we've got some five funny characters for you to pick from. This gets more difficult every year, I'm going to say, because I don't think that Coronation Street does comedy the way it used to. And I'm not saying it's not funny. And I know that lots of people say that it's not funny, but there are funny bits. I just don't think that Corrie is focused on making characters as funny as they used to.
I think that if there are characters who are just on there to be funny, often for me that they don't work.
It doesn't work.
You know, characters like Mary or Kirk or Bobby.
They have not been nominated.
None of them have been nominated this year, but we've gone for 5 characters who have had a good mixture of drama and comedy, but people who have honestly made us chuckle and giggle and laugh out loud with some of the things that they've said this year and previous years as well. So do you want to run down our nomination list here?
I just want to say also, I think this is a good demonstration of the sort of synergy that you get between the writers and the actors, because a lot of these, you know, this is performance, but this is also writing.
Sure.
But these really I think these characters could make. These actors can make almost any line funny. All of these.
They're all very skilled comedians, these actors. Yeah.
These are actors who can look at a line and go, do you want me to make this funny or dramatic? And depending on what they decided, they would nail it every time. Mm-hmm. So I'll just say the 5 names and then we'll talk about them individually. So we've got Dev Allahan, we've got Debbie Webster, we've got Sally Webster, we've got Evelyn Plummet.
I've put Sally Webster here, actually. I'm going to check. She should be Sally Metcalf, shouldn't she? She's not been Webster for ages.
Evelyn Plummer and David Platt.
Yes. Funny in different ways. So you got your eccentric funny, which is Dev. You got your camp funny, which is Debbie Webster. You got your cutting, scathing, sarky, cynical remarks, which is Evelyn. You got your blissfully unaware of her own pomposity in Sally, and then you've got just the sarky, dry remarks in David. So pick your favourite type of humour. We got a whole gamut to vote for here.
I honestly don't think we need to say any more about any of these, because I think you've really summed up quite well why anyone would want to vote for them individually. You know, you've had, you know, just to go through, I guess, some highlights. Dev, I thought, was really funny at the party when he was doing his weird accent and then proposed to Bernie.
I enjoyed his recent hot dog scene in the cafe as well.
I don't think he's had a German accent for the past 10 years, which was quite funny. We also had...
He could never be too over the top for me.
I love him.
He owns it, Jimmy Harkish.
He really does.
He's brilliant.
Sally, with her sucking up to Demi, that was fantastic. That was one of the highlights of the year.
There's been not very much Sally this year, unfortunately. Sally the snob. Yeah, I think she was also quite funny in the Tommy Orpington bust unveiling scene as well. Any opportunity to have her be a bit of a snob is she is like hits.
She rises to the occasion.
Absolutely.
We've also got Debbie, who was funny when they're having a scrap in the hotel foyer, and she's like, "Oh, I've not made.
Don't bleed on me upholstery. I just had it done."
And she also did the intervention scenes. That was great.
Oh yeah, between George and Glenda. Yeah, she is a really good time, Debbie Webster.
She's a sparky one where she is just super camp. She's camp as Christmas, and when she comes into a scene, she's mincing around with her hand in the air, and her earrings, they're funny as it is without anything else.
Even just that, there was a scene a couple of weeks ago where at the end of the scene she's like, "Tara Chuck," which is a totally old school Corrie thing to say, but she can make it funny. She is such a talented lady.
Same as Maureen Lipman, who plays Evelyn Plummer. Sometimes I don't think they even write her anything funny to say in a scene. It's just the way she reacts.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I've not prepared hugely for this, but and I can't necessarily think of any clearly obvious Evelyn lines this year, but just being there, and the same for David. Really, I think sometimes the lines that are just the driest, the sarkiest, they can sometimes be forgotten a little bit more. But David just making his commentary about all of the Jesse and Gail getting together this year, some of the things he said in the Max storyline, he's just been brilliant, and it's as I was saying earlier in the podcast, lovely to have him back into the spotlight again. Evelyn this year, you know, we had her in the puppy rescue story right at the start. We've had her supporting Roy towards the middle. She has had some time off screen, unfortunately, but it looks like she's back with another little mini side story at the moment where she's shown a hitherto unexplored interest in all things legal. And the scene at the Chariot Square, apparently the scene in Chariot Square last week where she took the other person's name tag was brilliant. So love a bit of Evelyn. Again, really, really difficult when we come to vote for this. I don't know who I'm going to pick.
No, I know. This is my favourite category.
Wisely.
I think this one and the villains are my favourite category for
because you're comedy,
how difficult,
tragedy, isn't it?
How difficult it can be.
So, the next up, we've got the LOL Love Award for Best New Couple. Whenever the new year rolls in, I'm thinking, God, I hope there's at least 5 new couples this year on the street. Otherwise, how on earth are we going to fill the category when it comes to the end of the year? But fortunately, this year has not let us down in terms of new pairings. Not all of which I'm a big fan of myself. Toya and Nick still haven't got my head around this.
And we don't want to influence anybody, and we wouldn't ever dare to presume, but we are going to temporarily rename this award to the Swala Award for Best Newcomer, just in anticipation for the I'm sure deluge of votes we're going to get. I think Carla Connor and Lisa Swain.
I think that Carla and Lisa are going to be some stiff competition this year because they've got a very passionate fan base. They are a really lovely couple together. We've only seen the kind of the beginning of it this year. There was a point, a month or so ago where we're thinking, are they going to be a couple by the time the award comes out?
Can we even put them in?
But yeah, they've had a tumble between the sheets, haven't they? They may not have admitted that they love each other yet. They may not be out in public, but we know, and I think that the Vicky Myers and Alison King work really, really nicely with each other. So
yes, I mean they
were strong. They are really strong contenders.
It's a really strong contender. They've got a lot of charisma and chemistry with each other, which is super, super important. Mm-hmm. They've got a story that's compelling and interesting, which a lot of new couples don't have on Coronation Street. It's just like, well, these two look similar in age. Let's put them together because I don't think they've had a shag yet. So let's put the cat among the pigeons and get them in bed together. Whereas Carla and Lisa, it's actually been a really beautiful kind of blossoming of those two together, and it kind of reminds me a bit of what they did with Seb and Nina, where they've really actually made me invest in believing these two have a spark. I think a lot of the times they don't bother.
Yeah, they didn't have to. They could have just kind of thrown them together and said, "There you go, they're together now." And lots of people would have jumped on it, but I was when I heard that they were going to be put together, I was thinking, okay, that could work. It might not work, but I absolutely think that they have played it brilliantly.
They've done a really great job.
Yeah,
they've written it well. They've
slow.
Performed it well.
Yeah.
Also, Nick and Toya, you don't like this, but a lot of people are fans of this, and they think that they're a good couple together. It has been convincing. Again, it's been a slow burn.
I think that's my problem. I think that they have made it really convincing, but deep down, I'm like, no, I don't want to have Nick and Toya together. I prefer Nick and Leanne together, and Nick is too boring for Toya.
Oh dear.
Well, I still haven't let go of Imran. I'm still grieving him, to be quite honest with you.
Toya's moved on, so why don't
Clearly.
you? The interesting thing about this relationship, clearly though, is that Toya is the one that's being pulled in two directions, because she has got loyalty to Leanne as well as Nick, and you don't often see this.
No,
it's always seemingly the other romantic partner. So there will be a love triangle, but it will be between my ex and my new love. Whereas this is between my sister and my new boyfriend, which is a different.
Even though she does have that loyalty to Leanne, I would say that the driver in this relationship has still been Toya. She's been maybe more the one that's been dragging him off to bed rather than him.
We're going to talk about it off air because we haven't got time to get into it here.
Who else have we got?
Well, we've got one of the golden oldies on the street has found new love
again.
Gail and Jesse. This was the relationship that nobody saw coming. Not even Coronation Street.
Not even Coronation Street saw this one coming until circumstances dictated that it would have to be quickly cobbled together this summer.
But I think they've had limited screen time. But it is nice to see Gail happy, and Jesse does seem, although slightly misguided perhaps with blackmailing David, It does seem like he genuinely wants the best for Gail.
I think so. They could have really flubbed this, but even though, like you said, that they haven't had much screen time together, when they have been together, I've very much bought it. And they've not had all of the, they've not had romantic dates, or they've not even had many scenes where it's just been the two of them together. Quite often it's been them
off down Jesse's house.
Yeah, they're always around Jesse's house, aren't they?
To see what they
a lot of the
to.
time they're just there with their arms around each other in number 8 with David kind of sneering at them.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I'm surprised at how believable their relationship has grown when they haven't really pushed it, and I think that the acting chops of the two main players involved here have really helped that.
Yes.
Also on the Platt family, we've got Max, who has found himself new love with Lauren. This was a tricky one for LO Love, because when Lauren came into it, it was a bit of a romance with Max, but it never really got going anywhere until this year, did it? And we didn't nominate them in previous years, because I did check. So this is the first year they're in a proper relationship with each other kind of thing.
And obviously the draw for this couple is that it's forbidden love. They can't be together at the moment because Lauren's in prison. They, are they toxic? Are they not? Is that what you're into? Is this a bit of a Romeo and Juliet where they're gonna both fall, come a cropper at the end of it?
If Romeo and Juliet were both extreme right members of a neo-Nazi group, maybe.
I mean, if they'd had the chance, I'm not sure.
This has been a real story of maturity for Max as well, and he's currently kind of saying, well, I'll be a dad to Frankie.
He's stepping up for Lauren.
Yeah.
I think he's idealistic and naive.
Oh, 100%.
But it is kind of sweet to see him want to put his life on pause for his love. Yeah,
a little young love compared to all our other nominees.
Yeah,
actually, this is the only couple that are on the young side. I really am waiting for us to be able to have Ardy and Amy in this category, because it feels like it's been years that these two have been dancing around each other, and they'll have a scene where they kind of give each other the glad eye and then it goes again. I really think that Amy and Ardy would make a brilliant couple, but Corrie doesn't seem to be ready to go there quite yet. We also had, there was Glenda and Michael that looking like they could go somewhere. They didn't. I can't remember that. There's been a few that looked like they were going to blossom into something but ultimately didn't. Our 5th nomination, though, did turn into a full-on romance, even though a lot of it played out off-screen. It's Tracy MacDonald and Tommy Orpington. So this was the first, this is the New Year's romance, wasn't it? Tommy made his debut. Was it the Christmas Day episode last year, I think? Not his debut, his comeback. And then there was a fairly hastily cobbled together tale of Tracy and Steve not really being happy with each other. But I found that I was quite surprised at how much I enjoyed seeing Tommy Orpington, because I was never, it's not that I wasn't a big fan of him before, I just had no opinion on him. He was fairly bland, but I think that Matt Milburn and the Corrie team did a good job in fleshing out his character this year and making his romance with Tracy quite believable and a little bit kind of sexy, and it was fun stuff at the beginning of the year, even though ultimately it wasn't too long before they moved off to Spain, and then that's almost the last that we saw of him.
Should have gone to France. Should have gone to France.
That's where all the cool people go in Coronation Street, isn't it?
Where you're supposed to go and you romance.
To France. So Tracy is on and off the street. We haven't seen Tommy since his bust unveiling, and I think even Tracy wasn't in that. But you may, despite all our other strong contenders here, find that these are the two that have really plucked at your heartstrings and made you go weak at the knees. You may be shipping this more than anybody else. Who knows? And if that's true, give them a vote.
There's plenty of Tracy fans out there who
100%.
With their new
Absolutely. Next up, we have got the Eki Thump Award, which is our best scuffle. Over the years, it's been best fight, best punch, best many things, but scuffle is what we ended up settling on last year. So there's a whole mixture of things. This is where Coronation Street has got physical.
Yeah, and the trouble about this is that some of the big storylines do have multiple Eki thumps and scuffles and even murders. I didn't really want to put a murder in here.
We got close with one.
We got very, very close to one, and we did only pick one. for Joel, even though he had multiple.
There were quite a few times.
stuff.
There were many scuffles with Joel. What we've ended up going for is the tussle on the viaduct between him and Max just before Lauren clonks him on the head with the brick. So Max is there holding him up at CS spray point. Is that a phrase? I don't know. And he ends up grabbing hold of him. They have a bit of a back and forth tussle in the dark, pushing Max over to the edge of the viaduct with the water cascading underneath. It was either going to be that or the scene where he's revealed as Lauren's bludgeoner, which was also brilliantly done. But we have plumped for this one because maybe that other scene will get a mention later on.
I didn't want to have that scene because it went beyond a sort of whimsical Ecky thump for me to something worse, and I didn't want to have that in the category.
Well, who else have we got?
We've got Damon and Harvey having a scrap in their cell. We've got Nick laying out Rowan at the hotel. We've got Leanne giving Toya a slap. I bet she wished she could do that again. And Griff holding...
She's storing it up.
Griff holding Roy at knife point in the prison.
So Damon and Harvey ended up in prison together after Damon got arrested earlier this year. I was wondering whether this was going to spin off into its own little storyline on its own, but it kind of never did it?
No, this was really great because these two characters obviously are brothers, but they were also at loggerheads, and they ended up, despite what would happen in real life, being able to access one another in the prison, even though they obviously had beef with each other.
Yeah, well, Harvey was trying to get Damon involved in the bank job, wasn't he? And Damon didn't want to.
And they basically they have a scuffle, don't they? And then they sort of don't they call a truce.
They do eventually, but this one's some proper kind of rough and tumble.
Yeah.
Some of the others that we've got on the list here are just one blow and it's done. But this was a really kind of full on physical fight. Even towards the end of it, I think. Damon's there on the floor, Harvey's looming over him, and Damon kind of punches him between the legs.
Yeah, it's a right proper
man's fight, this one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the trouble with Ecky Thump is that quite a lot of them are just slaps. So the best one was Leanne slapping Toya for sneaking about.
What? Are you influencing the vote there?
No, I'm just saying, of all the many slaps and punches, we could only pick a couple.
This was
and
after...
So we got Nick punching Rowan, and we got Leanne slapping Toya.
Yeah.
So that's why those have been nominated. I'm not saying they're the best of this category.
So the slap was after Leanne had found out that Toya had been bedding her Nick throughout this whole horrible situation that she's been going through. And yeah, she kind of strides up to her in the middle of the street. Toya doesn't know what's coming, but ends up.
Well, she's trying to say, she was looking for Leanne, wasn't she? And then she sees her and goes, "Oh, thank goodness!" And then Leanne comes up and just gives her a massive slap across the cheek.
Yeah, and having these two, which sisters and siblings always fight, in real life and in Coronation Street, but they've done a pretty good job, I think, at reminding us or keeping in mind that these two are a powerhouse pair together, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've got this long-standing link between them, even though they're not related by blood. The two Battersbys together are quite a combination, and although they've definitely not seen eye to eye this year, having these two characters that we want to be strong together, having a big slap was quite a shocking moment. And then also you mentioned the other nominee here, which was Nick having a go at Rowan in the hotel. So he kind of marches up there. Rowan's, I can't remember what he was doing, just one of his other talks or something probably. Nick strides up to him. Rowan taunts him somewhat, and then Nick punches him square in the face. This is when Debbie comes in and's like, "Don't bleed on me upholstery." So it had the element of comedy as well. Rowan just, in classic soap style, bumbling backwards, kind of taking the full force of Nick's punch in the face. That was a really great moment. And then finally, for there was no throwing of punches involved in this one, but Griff holding Roy at knife point, we thought very much deserved to be nominated as well, right?
Well, this was great because it was part of a big week.
Yeah.
It was a surprise return from Griff because we did not know he was going to be back in the show. Mm-hmm. It was part of a big story because it was Roy, being taken down for murdering Lauren, and obviously Griff has got that link with the group that was involved with Lauren's dad. Mm-hmm. And so it was also a big character with Roy. You were saying earlier, he's in his 70s, and still having a physical fight and stunt work and all that. It's great for an older character.
Roy's trying to rush to the door. Griff comes behind him, and Griff's there saying, "Roy's got a knife. Roy's got a knife." He's shouting out to the guard that's on the outside of the cell, isn't he? But really, Griff's there with this blade at Roy's throat, and it got very physical, and it's probably a little bit scary for Roy.
This was really quite kind of dark and sickening in a way, because Griff was planning on something quite sinister for Roy. He was going to try and make it look like he'd taken his own life.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
And
You're
then
right.
and then when it doesn't work out, he's like, well, let's just do this the faster way, which was with the knife.
Yeah.
And so you've got Roy in real mortal peril. I don't think there was a person in the country that thought that Roy might actually die in this week, but it was still very dramatic.
A really great action scene from David Nilsson and Mikey Condren, for sure.
Well done.
Right, next up, we have got Best Exit Award, the Terrar Award. Now, we've said goodbye to maybe 7-8 characters this year, so we had to whittle those down to 5. And again, similar to one of the ones earlier on in this episode, the first nominee, Peter Barlow, didn't actually say goodbye in 2024, but he has left since the voting on last year's Conversation Street Awards closed. So Peter Barlow having that big two-hander with Carla on Boxing Day last year, where they realise, it's for the best if you go, and I bought you a ticket on a boat. Say what you like about how rushed that was. There were some really brilliant moments there between Alison King and Chris Gascoigne. It was an almost two-hander, wasn't it? He ends up going out and sees Toya and Ken and some of the others, and then
Simon couldn't make it.
Simon could not make it, no.
And it also, interestingly, we had a little brief. We didn't end up putting it in the
Getaway Award.
But he was on a tram, sort of looking romantically out of the window, like he was taking a photo for his first solo album.
It was a little bit like that.
So Peter Barlow, a massive character and sort of big loss for the show.
Yeah, they made a big enough deal for it. It was basically a back of the taxi exit, but given a little bit more status, wasn't it? Actually having him get on a Manchester tram.
You don't
with his
see
headphones
that.
in.
You really don't see that very much.
Yeah, and I would hope that this wasn't the last that we've seen of Peter, but I thought that was a pretty satisfactory final scene for him there. Also, let's just run down the other nominees quickly who did say goodbye to the street in 2024. We got Joel Deering, Beth Sutherland, Paul Foreman and Simon Barlow. So Simon has been on the show, very long time. We've seen him grow up from a little wee kid of 4 or 5 was he when Alex Bain came into the show, and it can't be denied that the character has floundered a little bit, and Corrie hasn't seemed to know how much to do with him. But he ended up having a few stories this year, crashing the car with Sam in it. But really, with Peter, the writing been on the wall for him. No, well, with Peter gone, the writing really was on the wall for Simon, because he was one of the few links that he had left in the show. And he, say what you like about him, he had a really nice final episode. He had a little party in the bistro. He gets a lovely goodbye scene with Carla and some of the others. I'm not, I don't want to influence voting at all, but I'm not convinced that this one's going to win. But I think it was quite a nice ending for him. Similar with Beth, she got a sad goodbye, didn't she, after her little dabblings in the counterfeit t-shirt biz.
Yeah, she's gone on to take Fizz's old job in Norfolk as a supervisor in a factory, but she was blackmailed. She had Kit was involved. Kirk found out. There was that romance between the two of them, that relationship that they had, and she had to give it all away to sort of start anew. And if you're a fan of Beth, you might want to vote for this, because she's been on the show for a long time, and it as far as exits go, not everyone gets even a storyline sometimes. I mean, Stu's not here. He just went. I think it's a testament to her that she got a story where she did go and
3-4 weeks, there you go.
Not necessarily the ending that she would have picked for herself, but it's still a positive ending nonetheless, because she decided to go and she's gone to she's gone on to, and she knows where she's going and she's got something lined up.
Yeah.
So
I enjoyed the scene that they had in the Rovers before then when I think Kirk proposed to her, didn't he,
Yeah.
to try and win her back.
There was a lot to
but
talk about
ultimately-
with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're looking for something that's, you know, a lot bigger and with the fireworks, then maybe Joel Deering or Paul Foreman's deaths are going to be the one for you. So Joel obviously had the big
Both of these
murder week.
inevitable, really, because
Yeah.
we knew from a story narrative perspective that Joel couldn't last very long once he'd been unmasked as an evil man. But sadly, Paul also he had an end. We knew that he had an end point because he had MND.
Yeah, we went into this year wondering when it was going to happen, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of the money was on it being Britain's Got Talent week, but he did manage to pull it through another couple of months after that.
And what a tragic and human and wonderful and sad and it was really affirming, Paul's story. And you know, we're always critical of how many medical stories they have. When I heard this was going to happen, I was so sad about it. I didn't know how I was going to cope with it. But I think they did such a great job, and they had drama. You know, if you want to talk about exits, I think Paul's kind of was kind of. When do you take the end point? Because it was the whole year. But that final episode where he gets rushed to hospital, you know, even Kit was involved. He couldn't breathe. He got taken in, and then you get that scene with Billy running around trying to find out where he was. Also the scene beforehand when he and David were on the bench, Billy and David, that was all part of the exit. And then that final twist of the knife where Billy didn't actually get to say goodbye. And he thought he had, and you know, the women at the bedside weeping over Paul. It was really
I liked
powerful.
how all of those women, Bernie, Summer and Gemma, all had their little moment with him to say their last goodbyes. And Gemma, I think that's the one that stuck with me the most effective one, when she's talking about being like an odd sock and
Yeah, that was
when
so
my time
sad.
comes, come and get me. She talked about, you know, come back as a parrot. She was absolutely amazing.
So there were-
Dolly Rose Campbell in that scene.
So there are some stories where you get a goodbye and some where you don't, and this was certainly one of those.
Yeah, and we did get a hello again from Paul a month or so later
We
when he
did, it
came
wasn't
back as
quite the end.
a figment of Billy's imagination. But yeah, what we are nominating here is that hospital scene for his goodbye. And then not around about the same time, we also had Joel, who also kind of had a double exit, didn't he? He had the time when he was actually found dead, or he was disappeared and then later found dead, and then we got the flashbacks a month or two later when we found out more about how it happened. But I think, you know, it's up to you how you want to what you want to categorise this as. Is it the whole story that you'd be voting for if you're voting for his death? Are you voting for the flashback week when it happens? It's up to you.
I think
really.
you're going to know whether you wanted to vote for Joel, and you're not going to worry about whether you're voting for for this
the
scene
whole
or that
who
scene.
done it. I mean, we were wondering this week who's gonna do it. I was still convinced that it was Kit until, you know, quite late on. But once Lauren and Max started their little sneaking arounds at the beginning of the week, and we knew that it wasn't going to be Max when he was arrested, so I think the money was then on Lauren. But it was really excitingly done. They made great use of the volume wall. You know, I'm not a massive fan of the volume wall, but there's no denying that it looked quite spectacular having those scenes on top of the viaduct there. And there's still ramifications for his death with the Deerings making their reappearance on the show recently.
But are you gonna boycott that because of the whole corpse in the river debacle?
Oh yes,
It wasn't.
thanks
his
for
head,
reminding us
it was
that he
a rock.
wasn't wrapped up in plastic.
Maybe there will be some, what's the word, justice for that in our Bobbins Awards.
Who knows?
Don't know.
Maybe.
You
You're
haven't
right.
even thought about it, but you might decide to vote a different way. But all of these, I think, are definitely worth nominating, and there's some really
for sure.
strong contenders there. I mean, I think, you know, if you're kind of looking at it for explosiveness, you'd say Joel, but there's some other really emotional and really big names too as well that have left in the last 12
And
months.
speaking of that Joel scene, that also gets a nomination on our Bayek Award for the best shock twist. So the moment when it was revealed that Lauren was the one who killed Joel, they had the tussle with Max, and and then he was clonked round the head with a brick. The camera pans out and we see that it's Lauren standing there, confirming what many of us had suggested suspected going into the episode, but it was certainly a twist that Corrie hadn't published beforehand, so definitely deserving of a nomination here.
Yeah, let's just be clear about what this award is for. This award is for a surprise, a shock, a twist that was not choreographed, telegraphed, publicised, leaked, or in any way previewed by Coronation Street before it appeared. This was a mystery or a twist or something we didn't see coming. So, yes.
And even if we had been looking at the spoilers, we wouldn't have known it was coming.
Yes, exactly. So there are going to be other twists that aren't in here because they were part of a preview or something. So this is why quite a lot of the same story have been nominated, because the Joel and Lauren story was the one that had the most amount of twists and the one that was set up like a mystery all the way through the year, because we've got the fact that Joel bludgeoned Lauren in the first place, that reveal scene where you see him, slicking his hair back, that was a shocker.
Well, that all came up. Oh, go on. You say all the rest of them
We've
first.
We've got the fact that Lauren wasn't dead after all that, and she's actually pregnant, which was also a huge twist. That's in there. Like you said, Lauren killing Joel. Those three are all from the same story, yes, but they were all independent from each other, and they all could have been spoiled, and they weren't.
There's also, what we haven't nominated here, but it was certainly up for debate, was the episode where Dee Dee finds out about Joel, because we were all looking forward to this, September wedding that they'd been planning, and as far as we knew, that was going to go ahead. But then we had that episode in, I can't remember, that it was late August, early September, where she found out exactly what he's been getting up to. That completely took us by surprise, and
but
if it hadn't been, we didn't want to completely fill this with stories from the with scenes from the Joel story. So who are our final two we've got?
We've also got the fact that Paul returned as a ghost or a vision or a dream, whatever you want to call it. The fact that Paul appeared after he had died to Billy as he was drunkenly sitting on the back of the factory, that's in here. And we've also got the fact that Shona slept with Kit.
Oh, not happy
with
that.
That was a surprise as well. Now, the thing about
not turning into an LO love quite yet, but who knows where that's going.
The thing about this category is that this is a category that's quite important to us personally, because we like to be surprised by soaps. Coronation Street. We want to sit down and see something unexpected. We want to have a gasp. We want to go. But it can be quite difficult because Coronation Street likes to get people watching. They'd rather you sat down and waited for something to happen than be surprised, because you're not going to get new viewers that way, I think they think. So, especially like Ian McLeod has always been a producer that wants to let you know what you're in for and hopefully get bums on seats. But
we'll see what Kate Brooks...
We'll see what Kate Brooks...
Which way her bread's buttered there.
But... The fact that the Joel and Lauren storyline has been a sort of great source of these surprises has been good, I think.
Well, especially, we'd wondered whether it was Joel running up to that reveal at the end of Britain's Got Talent week. Is he the one that was responsible for Lauren's death? What exactly happened there? We were so... we thought at one point, was it Nathan? Was it Kit? Did we think it was Kit? I can't remember. Even Tommy Orpington was a contender at one point there. But that moment where at the very end of the week, Hope is digging around in his car and then shows him the necklace of Lauren's that we'd been discussing for a while, and then that cuts to the flashback of him chasing her around the room, hitting her over the head, and then he stands up, looks in the mirror, slicks his hair back. That was a moment of like, oh, okay, and suddenly the possibilities just started sparking about where this story could go to next.
What I'd like you to consider when you're voting for this is not whether you thought the story was good or you liked where it was going, but more whether it took you by surprise. So you might not like the fact that Shona slept with Kit, but if that was the most surprising thing that happened, then vote for it, Well,
especially with the Shona sleeping with Kit one. I mean, that's our most recent nomination out of all of these ones today. I didn't go into the week with any...
Suspecting.
No suspicion that would happen. We see her going off on the Wednesday episode and thinking, oh, what's she up to there? Then a lot of Friday's episode where we're kind of misdirected into thinking that she's possibly spent the night with Adam. And it wasn't until the very final seconds of that Friday episode a week or so ago that we had them were going past each other at the door with the Rovers and going, "Oh, we can't talk about this." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, no, Shona, you haven't, have you?" Oh my! So that, again, this sparks off lots of possibilities for the future here, especially considering what kind of character that Kit is. Going back to the Joel story, we didn't think that Lauren was dead, did we?
I don't think we.
I don't think
did.
many people at this point thought that Lauren was definitely gone.
But it was more the fact that she was pregnant that was the massive shock.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know that she was going to be showing up at Roy's bedside in the hospital, and they had that whole episode, which was pretty much a two-hander between Joel and Lauren, wasn't it? With all the different flashbacks and the explanations about what happened to her after he hit her with the chair leg, some of which I still didn't completely buy, but never mind. But yeah, when... You're right, out of all the twists in that episode, some of which I saw coming, the one thing that really did take me by surprise was when he pushes her back and then she holds her stomach, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got a baby Frankie in there. Yeah, so that was a really strong episode. And then obviously Lauren killing Joel. We went into the episode thinking, yeah, she's gonna, isn't she? But still a big moment when the camera pans out to reveal she is the brick wielder there. 100% did not expect to see Paul coming back onto the show, did we?
No, that was so funny. Yeah, that was a twist that was I don't really know what to say about it.
Starting to become a little bit more common on Coronation Street. We've talked just recently on our Patreon about times when characters have made posthumous appearances, and even since then there's been others that have been that have appeared on screen or been hinted at. And Paul coming back, it was definitely a twist as Billy was there drowning his sorrows round the back of the factory. And it wasn't just a case of one little scene and that's it. We also had the following episode, Paul there doing his little dance, telling Billy to pull himself together. There were some really lovely moments between the two of them, and so nice to see Paul, looking healthy again after his year of decline. Yeah. Physical decline.
So, I mean, as far as shocks go, if that really shocked you, vote for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice that there are still some contenders here, because this is my one thing that I would really love from any new producer, that they aren't quite so forthcoming in telling us the nitty gritty details, and hopefully Kate Brooks, like Kate Oates, her namesake, is one.
I don't think it's her namesake.
Well, who knows? Okay, maybe she's not, but
they both share a name.
They both have got the same first name.
Amazing.
And I hope that, like the last Kate, this one also likes to keep some surprises up her sleeve for us. Finally, we reached the last category here. This is the big one.
Arguably the most important.
Maybe so. This is the That's Champion Award, where you can vote for the best storyline of Coronation Street in 2024. And you probably have guessed what we've ended up putting in the categories here based on some of the other nominations that we've discussed so far. But what we have ended up with is number one, the Institute story, the Battersby love triangle, everything that's been getting on with the Battersbys this year. The Lauren and Joel saga as well. Now, this is huge. This stretched the whole year and it's still going. I mean, this is encapsulating Lauren's disappearance.
Roy being in prison.
Yeah, Roy being in prison. Joel's unmasking as a villain.
Dee Dee. And what she get up to.
Exactly. Yeah, the wedding there. The death of Joel, who killed Joel, all of it. It was we didn't want to separate them out because there's no clear cut-off point as this is when this part of the story ends and then becomes to something else. So it's a big one. We wanted
to make it so that if I think you'll know if you want to vote for that, you'll know that that's your choice,
Mm-hmm.
Like any part of that story, you can vote for it. I don't think there's going to be many people going, oh, I can't possibly vote for it because this is one element of it that I didn't enjoy at all.
Sure. Also, we've got Paul's MND storyline, David and Shona's Secrets and Lies, another recent addition here, but something that, even though it's in its early weeks, is definitely capturing my attention so far. And also Liam's bullying torment from earlier this year as well. So we've spoken already quite a bit about the Institute story, and that was a proper Marmite affair, wasn't it? I loved it. I thought Rowan made a great villain. It was brilliant seeing the Battersby sisters centre stage, having a cult yet again in Coronation Street, or not yet again, you know, for the first time in 25 odd years since the Cult of Nirab was always fun, and there were some bizarre moments in that. I mean, AI Ollie, for one thing, is going to be something that's going to stick in our memories for quite a while. But having that all intertwined with...
Well, it's also, you know, Toya and her cancer and Rose, and that led into her and Nick growing closer, and because she was alienated from Leanne, because Leanne was obsessed with the cult, and then the court case, and
even Les Battersby's death you can include in this storyline if you want to, because that's tangentially related, I guess. But Paul's MND is also a real strong contender, and this is the winner of the That's Champion Award 2023, but there's no denying that it has dominated 2024 as well, and been a story that lots of people have really caught onto. Like last year, there were lots of different alleys that the story went down, but I suppose this year's really was the decline.
I think last year was the emotional, like, coming to terms emotionally and psychologically with the diagnosis, and this year was coming to grips with the physical reality of what that means.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned at all yet this episode, the special one that we had over the summer, which was Paul's point of view, hearing what was going on inside his head.
Remarkable. That
was going to then end with Billy helping
Paul to end
his own life, but they didn't go there in the end. But they had the scenes inside his head with the clubbing scene. That was a fantastic piece of TV. But I loved how they were able to carry his story on for a little bit longer after that, and to get to the death episode that we talked about recently. But Peter Ash, Dan Brockaway, absolutely brilliant.
You
can count the
Bernie
aftermath as well.
And Billy trying to navigate their grief, and also the differing expectations of how that would look.
Yeah, the church funeral, the rave up, the space launch. He's certainly it was not a Robert Preston here where he got shot and then nobody mentioned him
one day,
again.
Gone the next.
That was a really strong story for 2023, like these other ones. I'm sure there'll be lots of people that'll be voting for this one. David and Shona's Secrets and Lies, I've just like many of you, massive fan of the Platts, and think that they've been hugely underused in the last few years. So just in the last month or so, seeing things fall into decline for them. David
lying and hiding things,
gaslighting
and telling
Shona.
Her she's crazy. Shona realizing that Clayton needed her. That real tension that's always been there between this couple, because her son killed David's wife, and that has never really gone away, and it's rearing its ugly head again, and it's caused Shona to seek comfort in the arms of another, which perhaps might not turn out so well for the couple, especially considering that as we're moving into the new year, David is got a mortgage on the house.
Exactly. Also, I would include in this everything with Damon's money and David stashing that
Jesse.
away, and Jesse, Gail. That can all be thrown in there if you want some other reasons to vote for this one. And then finally, we had the bullying story, which was huge at the beginning of the year. We had the knife being planted in Liam's bag. We had in Dylan's bag. We had Liam looking online about taking his own life. Maria's obsession with looking, not wanting to leave his side.
Really tragic.
There was some
really hard to watch, but really important, and a story that's definitely touched some people
100%,
and really reflected really sadly some true life experiences. We've had people write in to say how important this was to them, and so this definitely deserves its place for sure. I mean, you got some of the stories like the Institute and Laurel and Joel, which is hopefully both of them are nowhere near the sort of things that you would actually experience. They're a bit of escapism stories, aren't they? There are certainly people who have had these experiences, but sadly, I think that the bullying story is going to be
that's closest to home to most viewers.
That more people have had experience with, and it's one of those stories too where it shows Coronation Street doing a good job of an awareness story. It didn't just happen one day and then you forget about it the next. There have been some real misfires, not just this year, but over the past few years, with clumsily inserted,
clunky awareness,
throwaway
and that's the Lyme
nonsense
disease,
things.
isn't it?
And this certainly wasn't. And
no.
I'm not sure that I feel that it had a good conclusion, but you can tell me what you think by.
Well, yeah, we've seen Mason's
deciding
redemption, haven't we? Since
not sure about that, but if you find that intriguing, because he's still not necessarily a goody two shoes, is he? There's still a bit of villainy. He could go either way.
Yeah.
And is that might be something that intrigues you enough to want to vote for it. But 5 really powerful stories that have had a lot of screen time.
And 100% there is not an obvious runaway winner of these as well.
No, definitely not. I don't think so. I'm really interested to see who.
I'd also
who
like
wins
to just
this.
add to the Liam story as well that, like I mentioned earlier, it's been brilliant for Sean, actually, who has not had lots of really dramatic stuff to do in recent years. He's just there for dishing up the camp lines behind the bar, but I think Anthony Cotton, in the scenes where he's needed to step up to the plate and show his acting chops, has done a really good job. Plus we've got a return of Violet Wilson as well, who we hadn't seen for a very, very long time on the show.
And Sean's got his own place.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, just want to give a shout out to Gary and Maria, who have been in this storyline, not quite as strongly as I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen them, but certainly this has helped give them more screen time.
Absolutely. So that is it. They are all of our categories this year. Well, apart from we always have the Mad for It award, which is where we decide on Listener
who's
of the Year.
the best of you.
Yeah, and so when you have to wait until New Year when the winners are announced to find out which one of you lovely listeners is going to be taking home that virtual trophy this year. But yeah, get yourself over to our webpage, find the blog links. The voting links. It'll be everywhere. We're going to be posting it left, right and centre on the internet. Cast your vote, spread the word. Let's get every Coronation Street fan online voting in the Coronation Street Awards.
Do please share it. Remember, you don't have to vote in every category, and
just vote once as well.
Let's keep it fair. Try to be fair with it. But we really are interested to see what you think, and whoever wins this really is gonna deserve it, because this is a fan. This is a really
for the fans.
I think this is important because it shows what passionate viewers of Coronation Street think about the show. It's not just for Conversation Street listeners, because I know that some people are going to share this link with others who don't necessarily listen to the show, and some of them won't even heard this podcast and have no idea what we think about any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fascinated this year particularly to see, and also this is a transition year between producers, because we've had Ian McLeod, Verity McLeod, and now Kate Brooks to the end of the year. This is kind of a handover year, and then we'll have next year as awards will also be interesting to see how Kate Brooks deals with this first year that she's going to have full control. Mm-hmm. So there you go, cast your vote. It's a really exciting year, and I'm really fascinated to see how you all vote. And I've got to make my mind up too about who I'm going to pick.
We've still got a couple of weeks until basically, like we said earlier, it's going to be around Christmas. I will make it known on social media when the votes are closing. But don't dilly-dally around. Get out there now. It's going to be about a week and a half or so that you'll get a chance to vote here.
We didn't even say this at the beginning, so this is irrelevant to say now. But hopefully, if you're in Canada, you have listened to this, because I don't think there's any spoilers, particularly about stuff that's happened in the last 2 weeks.
Well, maybe the David and Shona stuff, if you like. But
share it with people wherever they live, whatever they're up to, whatever they like or not or don't like. Probably not the EastEnders fans, because I don't think they know who anyone is, but because obviously Coronation Street again wins best soap.
Exactly. Don't even need to have that category, do we?
No.
Right,
Thank
you for listening, everybody.
Appreciate you. Take care of yourself.
Go and vote. And
clean
go
the
and
skating
share.
boards.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Merry Christmas. Right. See you next time, everybody. Ta-ra. Goodbye.
Bye.